My app is called Hunter. For my entire life, I've been playing video games because they're fun. I loved sitting down and playing Minecraft because it was engaging. Being so interested in video games eventually gave me the inspiration to start making my own. Minecraft had been made by one person without any fancy technology or high budget, so why couldn't I try? I started out using Scratch, worked up to Game Maker Studio, and here I am today, using Unity and C#, making music for them on FL Studio, art for them on GIMP, and 3D models for them on Blender. The fun I had playing those games gave me interest to learn these coding languages and use these decently advanced kinds of software off my own intrinsic motivation. Nothing is more important for getting someone to learn something than they themselves being interested in what you're teaching. So the purpose of my app, Hunter, is just like what Minecraft was for me, and that's to provide people with a fun game to play with the knowledge it was made by just one person with zero budget. So here's how I made it fun. I'll have footage of gameplay running in the background while I explain the mechanics because I don't have enough time in the video to explain every level. A separate video of just gameplay can be found on my channel if you'd like to watch it. I started making the game by writing a movement script for the player. It takes inputs from the player's keyboard and smooths the player's velocity with which keys are pressed. Then I added grappling. I thought being able to swing around the levels would add an extra layer of fun. I knew you would be fighting enemies in the game, but I didn't know how they would work to make them as fun to fight as possible. I took inspiration from a game which inspired me to get into game design, Doom Eternal. Doom uses complex enemy attacks and movement to get the player moving and switching weapons, and into something they call the fun zone.
You know, the fun zone is managing resources, it's doing all these different things, it's thinking constantly, it's using the right tool for the job, shooting weak points of enemies.
I added some basic enemies into the game, the Charger and the Shrieker. I also 3D modeled them on Blender. The Charger will run at you and attempt to hit you to keep pressure on the player, and the Shrieker will shriek loudly, creating sound waves which vibrate the air to damage the player. Dodging these attacks keeps you moving, which is one of the most important aspects of a fun action game. Next, I added leeches. These enemies burrow inside Chargers and Shriekers and make their movement and attacks much stronger, but they're very hard to get rid of. This adds some variety to enemies and makes them less boring. I had the basic enemies down, but I wanted to try something new, airborne enemies. The craft floats in the air and zooms around extremely fast while quickly firing energy bullets at the player. I still needed a way to heal up from all the damage I'd been taking, however, so I added the Stalker. This guy looks at you from a distance and just stares at you, lowering your health until you dispatch it, when it'll heal half your health back. This means that when you see one of these, you will want to get it as quickly as possible so you can get a net heal out of it. Now that I was done with the enemies, I moved on to the weapons, the first of which was the Pulsar. The Pulsar shoots a powerful blast of vibrations which is very effective against Chargers and Stalkers, but not so much against crafts. Then, I added the Phasmagrade, which shoots a laser beam which splits into many different beams depending on how many enemies it's targeted at. It was very hard to code as I had to detect how many line renderers existed, add or subtract based on the target number of line renderers, and parse each set of coordinate values through an array of hit enemies. The Phasmagrade is extra effective against Shriekers and Stalkers, but not Chargers. The Defcon was the final weapon I added, which shoots a ball of electromagnetic radiation and creates tendrils which come off of it and latch onto nearby enemies. The orbs also target and curve towards enemies after being shot. I made each weapon specifically good for certain enemies because I wanted you to switch up your playstyle and use your entire arsenal, which makes the game way more fun. After that, I made some music for the game, made interesting levels with the theme of an abandoned space lab, and organized the enemies in the level in a way that would be fun to play. When I was finally finished, I felt like Hunter really was the culmination of all the fun I had with playing games and everything I learned from making them from the past several years of my life. I feel like if someone like me a few years ago played this game, they would be motivated to learn about the process and try it themselves. But now I think my time is more than up. Sorry, I tried to pack in as much information as I could. I would love to explain more of the coding and 3D modeling process, as well as how I made the 3 songs for the soundtrack. There's a download link if you want to play the game yourself in the description. Thank you for watching, and I hope you were inspired by the game. If you thought it was interesting, you could absolutely make something like it yourself.